All right, in this video, I'm going to quickly show you how to install, and I put install into quotation marks, Kali Linux to a VirtualBox. We're actually not going to install it. We're going to run it off of the ISO file, but you still have to get it all set up. So we're going to double click, open up a VirtualBox here. We're going to create a new VirtualBox. So if you had this screen open, you just got to click on Tools. We're going to click on New. Type in here Kali Linux, and then we want to do maybe your last name in here. So go ahead and type in Reichelt. Make sure that we have Linux 2.6 64-bit. That's really important right here, the 64-bit. If it's not 64-bit, you're going to run into all kinds of issues. We hit Next. We want to give this 2048 in terms of the RAM, so make sure 2048. The hard drive size doesn't really matter, so VDI is fine, dynamically allocated is fine, and we can just hit create right there. Now that we have Kali Linux, we're going to double click on this, and it's going to ask us to find the ISO file. We're going to click on the little folder with the up arrow, and the file is right here. The way that we want to get there is we're going to go to this PC, the share drive, main west, then we go to students, then we go to AAT, then we find here a folder called cybersecurity, and I do not want you using this old one right here, so I'm actually going to delete this one. We got a new one right here. So I want to make sure that you use the Kali Linux 2019.2 AMD 64. Okay, and then we hit open and start. Perfect. So now that we have this working, we want to do the live AMD. So we are not going to install this. We're just going to boot it from the ISO file. So I'm going to click there. And then this is going to take actually a little bit of time to load up every time. But because we're only going to use Kali Linux in here 3 or 4 times, and so getting through the entire installation process and doing all the updates and things like that, it's just not worth it. The installation of Kali Linux takes like 45 minutes. If we were using it all the time, I'd say it'd probably be worth it because it'd run a little bit faster. But by doing it this way, you're still going to have access to everything Kali Linux does, and you'll get to see what Kali Linux is and how it works and all that kind of stuff without going through the arduous process of installing it directly to the virtual machine. So basically what we're doing is we're running the operating system directly off the ISO file. So Kali Linux is great for this because a lot of times penetration testers will want to boot from the ISO file or boot from like a flash drive or boot from a CD, and they'll want to run the operating system on a computer that doesn't necessarily have this installed, but they don't want any trace that they've ever been there. So if you had to actually install Kali Linux to an operating system, then people would know that you were there. But if you just booted from the like a flash drive or from a CD and you never actually installed the operating system, you'd still be able to do stuff, but there's virtually no trace of you. So that's a big positive. The other positive is like we have right now the operating system already running. One of the huge negatives of this, though, is you're going to notice that the operating system runs incredibly slowly. That's because everything that you do, we're going to be doing, like it has to go to the ISO file and check and that kind of stuff. So things are just going to be running really slow. That's okay. Once you have this, though, at this point, this is going to be good. So then we can go ahead and take a screenshot of this because I'm going to want a screenshot of this and paste that in there. And then we can shut this down. So in order to shut down a Linux machine, we can just click this button, click that power button, go ahead and power off, and it'll power off. Now, every time, there's no need to like take a state of this or anything like that. The one thing that you're going to have to remember, though, is every time that you do launch Kali Linux from now on, you'll have to double click on it, and then it'll boot from that ISO file, and then once it boots from the ISO file, we'll just have to select the top thing on here, this live AMD 64, and then that should work for you. Okay, so hopefully you were able to get this working. Let me know if you have any questions, problems, or issues.